Today, from the temple town of Somnath in Gujarat in the west to Bodh Gaya in Bihar in the east, from Rameshwaram in Tamil Nadu to Uttarkashi in the north, and even on the holy ghats of Banaras in Uttar Pradesh, you will find the mark of Ahilya Bai Holkar, a visionary leader who emerged as the greatest patron of faith and people in the 18th century. She built and rebuilt scores of temples, pilgrim centers, holy ghats, and travelers' inns, and became the point of call for anyone who needed help anywhere in India. She was a leader well beyond her times, a woman who broke all barriers, an astute administrator, a savvy businesswoman, and a lady who ensured that her name lived on through her philanthropic work across India. In fact, even today, her work continues through the Khasgi Devi Ahilya Bai Holkar Trust. This is where Ahilya Bai Holkar held court between 1767 and 1795. At this Wada or palace of hers in Maheshwar, the city which was her capital, you will still find locals who come here to seek her blessings. Ahilya Bai, once the beloved ruler of Maheshwar, is today revered as a mother, a saint. Why? How did a young girl from a small village near Ahmednagar go on to mark her presence across India? Little is known of Ahilya Bai's early life except that she grew up in a village in Ahmednagar district where her father was a village official. She was married as a young girl when she was just around 6 years old to Khande Rao Holkar, the only son of Malhar Rao Holkar, a fast-rising Maratha Sardar who had been made the Maratha Subedar of North India by Peshwa Baji Rao I. The 18th century marked the rise of the Marathas as a national force under the Peshwa Baji Rao, who led his armies north, crossing the Narmada and far beyond. Among Baji Rao's generals, Malhar Rao Holkar played a pivotal role. Ahilya Bai's father-in-law was a great warrior, and he was made in charge of Malwa. In the 18th century, with most of the men at war, Maratha women were left to manage the affairs not just at home, but beyond as well. In Ahilya Bai's case, a tragedy ensured that she had to do even more. In 1754, Ahilya Bai's husband Khande Rao Holkar was killed outside Kumbheri, a small fort near Bharatpur in present-day Rajasthan. Widowed when she was barely in her early 30s with a young son and daughter, it wouldn't have been easy for her. What was worse, Sugandha believes, is that within years, her son started showing signs of mental illness. Soon, it became clear that Ahilya Bai needed to play a more important role than before in the administration. For this, she was trained by Malhar Rao Holkar. These are the famous Maheshwar Ghats on the Narmada, built in memory of Ahilya Bai. She revived agriculture around Malwa. She invited the finest weavers to come and settle in Maheshwar. She created special suburbs for these weavers. This increased the production of Maheshwari textiles and her revenue from the taxes on sales. For the weavers, she ensured uninterrupted supply of silk by appointing a special officer to procure it. In her reign as the head of the Holkar lands in Malwa, her revenues increased by 130%, which was unheard of without tax increases or territorial gains. Go to Maheshwar today and you will still hear the sound of the weaving looms that were set up by Ahilya Bai Holkar. The famous Maheshwari was in fact her innovation over 2.5 centuries ago. It is because of her success as an administrator that Ahilya Bai could leave a greater mark across India. The wealth she earned ensured that she could use it where it was really needed. The late 17th and 18th century was a period of great churn across India. Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb had adopted a strident stance, wreaking havoc across India as he tried to expand his empire and win favor with the orthodox ulemas who never forgave him for imprisoning and usurping the throne from his father Shah Jahan. Elsewhere across India, with battles raging, little was done to protect the people or save pilgrimage centres. With her revenue soaring, Ahilya Bai turned her attention to these problems. And being a pious woman and a great devotee of Lord Shiva, she began rebuilding temples. As she did this, her fame grew and people all over the country turned to her for help. By the end of her reign, she had single-handedly been responsible for a massive pan-India building spree. While we don't know the exact number of the temples, ghats and dharamshalas or travellers' inns she built and rebuilt, we can see the evidence of her work in the famous rock-cut Kailash temple of Ellora, which she helped restore with plaster and paintwork, and the Vishnupad temple at Bodh Gaya. In fact, in the dharamshala near this temple, you will still see a small idol of her. Ahilya Bai went on to rebuild and support some of the most famous temples and pilgrimage sites of India. While she passed away in 1795, her entire estate was always treated as a charitable trust by her descendants.